The rise and fall of Bronx drill. Damn, it's a 21-minute video, and bro got the
No
whatever this
idea
shit called.
what drill rapping was, but I called my son and he sent me some videos and it is alarming.
The shenanigans.
Oh shit, got academics in here. I'm glad the mayor chilled out on that shit. Like he really hasn't been talking about drill like that. But it's still like crazy how like, and I'd be wanting to like make videos on this shit, but it's just like I don't know. Maybe it's not my place to like talk about it. But there's been so many times where like media outlets like the news, they've been like treating these drill rappers, they've been putting drill rap in every single category. There was a situation where the Prince G situation. They was calling they said that shit happened because his brother was a drill rapper and he was the target of the shooting and shit like that. Like they just add drill to anything. If anything happens in the Bronx and there's a rapper from that side, they add drill music to anything, bro. Like if bro got one trailer on his Instagram, he's a drill rapper. That's why he got killed. Like come on, bro. Like I hate how the media people are training shit.
Of Chirac, Jacksonville, okay, all these other places, Philadelphia, all that. Listen, man, that's not New York City. New York City's a whole different beast.
Over the course of 3.5 years, they carried out at least 32 violent crimes.
It was beefs and slights and disrespects that all drove some of these incidents.
That was done, investigators say, through drill rap videos.
And you'll never ever get long-standing crime or people who are repping gangs who are going to be dominating the scene in New York and also dominating the music scene as well. Okay, that's just the reality of things.
They call people out directly. They make fun of incidents, individuals that have perished prior to gunfire, opposing gang members.
But they have to realize New York is not the place. New York will not be.
And I don't really disagree with them because I do think drill has become way more demonic as it's progressed, especially when the Bronx took over and some parts of Harlem. It definitely has got way more demonic, the way they talking about shit and the way how like they're just so like they're just acting like it's nothing. That these people 13, 14-year-olds passing away and they just rapping about like it's nothing. But yeah, it's just
will not be the home.
The news be dragging it.
For where y'all think y'all could just act recklessly in the street and then make songs about it, taunting your enemies. Never will happen, and this is gonna be the consequence every single time.
Over the past 2 years, the Bronx drill movement has caught the attention of the whole world. Kids who were 9 and 10 when Chief Keef first blew have grown up and finally gotten their turn to put a spotlight on the craziness that's been going on in their borough for decades. Stars have skyrocketed up in the movement and fallen.
You can definitely tell these was the kids that was listening to Chicago music. I know they say it all the time, but just like calling yourself GBG babies and shit like that, and then smoking on every pack possible. You can tell like they're definitely influenced by Keef.
Just as quickly,
all them.
These songs have been released that are so wild. They make King Von's most disrespectful songs sound like YouTuber diss tracks. Teenagers have lost their lives and been mocked relentlessly by their ops, to the point where it seems like anything goes. The mayor of New York City even considered banning the genre as a whole, and everything has been broadcasted for tens of millions of people across the world to tune into. So today, let's take a look at the rise of Bronx drill. South Bronx is the home of Bronx drill, and this has been a rough place since the 70s when the borough had an outbreak of fires and 97% of its buildings ended up burning. During this time, the tough, impoverished conditions the youth of the Bronx found themselves in ended up being expressed in the creation of hip-hop. Time went on and the fires stopped, but the poverty continued and the Bronx remained the poorest borough in the entire city. Gangs were always present, and in the 70s and 80s, Italian mobs...
Wasn't it the Bronx that created music? I think it was like... I'm pretty sure it was the Bronx that created music. It was like someone new... I don't know the story, but I remember... I think it was the Bronx.
But in the 90s, the black and brown gangs began to take over. As time went on, these gangs caught indictments and lost their structure. So by the early 2000s, these organizations had devolved into teenagers chasing each other around with straps. Fast forward 20 years, and the Bronx found itself in the same situation. The only difference was a huge opportunity was about to present itself to allow some of these kids to monetize this pain and misery. 2020 was the year Pop Smoke lost his life, causing the Brooklyn drill movement to fade out. It looked like New York's run was over, but another drill movement was actually in its infant stages. In the Bronx, some of the movement's early pioneers were just getting started. Rappers like D-Thang, T-Dot, Shy K, and Spaz Drilly had been rapping since 2019, but despite living in New York, none of them were rapping on Brooklyn drill beats. But in 2020, they all started to turn towards the Brooklyn drill sound. This same year, rappers like K-Flock, B-Love, Dougie B, and E-Dot Baby were also beginning their careers rapping on Brooklyn drill beats as well. Like every drill movement, there were different gangs that each rapper was representing. K-Flock repped a gang called DOA, aka Southside. D-Thang repped a gang called YGs, aka G's. Shy K repped a gang called OGs. E-Dot Baby repped a gang called OY, aka Sugar Hill. And Spaz Drilly repped a gang called the Drillies. Around this time, it was basically all the gangs against the YGs and the Drillies.
You look at it now, you see how many people locked up. You feel me? E-Dot passed away. Shy K's the only one that's still around. And shout out to him. He was one of the first ones to do it. And now he's at like the top of drill. That's fire right there. I was with Spaz, D-Thang, K-Flock. Could do the same thing.
And rappers from these rival gangs went back and forth on tracks, just like others before them in Brooklyn and Chicago. Nobody blew up immediately out the gate, but early in the year, T-Dot and D-Thang saw success with tracks like RPT Buggin' Part 1 and 2, Shy K had Shooter Get Shot, Spaz Drilly had Bunny Hop, and E-Dot Baby had Ready for War. B-Love also saw early success with his song Through the Coat, and later in the year, K-Flock would join him and they would do numbers on songs like Op Spotter and Speed Racing. Like all the past movements, this was were tossed back and forth, but from the beginning, D-Thang and Shy K had the biggest rivalry between any of the Bronx pioneers. They had a strong hate for each other and were basically competing to see who could be the most disrespectful. They dissed each other by name and said they were smoking on each other's dead homies on a regular basis.
For real.
And as time went on, things only got worse. All drill music is aggressive, but rappers like K-Flock and Shy K were bringing a level of aggression rarely seen before. And this aggression would become more and more popular and a distinguishing part of Bronx drill as it progressed, with some even taking it so far that they started doing impressions of Batman. Another trend that was spread across Bronx drill was switching up the vibe of the beats. D-Thang and T-Dot were rapping on beats with the same style of drums as those from Brooklyn, but more happy sounding melodies, different from the dark, ominous sound of Brooklyn drill. And this would also form into a staple of Bronx drill. Toward the end of 2020, the Bronx drill scene was picking up steam and appeared to be on the edge of blowing up. 2021 was the year it reached the mainstream. Real quick before I get back to the video, there is some Bronx drill merch to go along with this video. 50% if you like it, or you merch. K-Flock, B-Love, and Dougie B dropped Brotherly Love and hit 1 million views in a month. It was clear that they had the potential to really take off. Everybody was going up, but K-Flock was separating himself from the pack. He was mainly doing songs with his friends, but he was clearly the star, and fans
I always looked at K-Flock as a star. Like the songs he was doing with C Blue, Brotherly Love, like he always was the one that stood out. Like no matter what, I always looked at him as star potential.
Wanted to see him do more solo records. Around this
There's not
time,
many people that got
the
star
Bronx
potential
drill
like
scene
him.
was also getting crazier and crazier. Basically, all of the gangs were turning EBK. In 2020, K-Flock, Dougie B, and Shy K were on good terms, doing songs together and shouting each other out. But something happened, and by the middle of 2021, DOA had fell out with the OI and OG's gangs, and members were adding K's to each other's sets, as well as dissing each other's dead members. B-Love was OG's, but had lived in DOA territory and was good friends with K and Dougie, but still cool with Shy K, and he managed to stay neutral, but Shy would end up going at it with Dougie and K. Despite falling out with DOA, Shy K continued to put out bangers throughout 2021 and dissed the YGs repeatedly on songs like D&D and One in the Head. D&D ended up blowing up on TikTok and giving Shy K a big boost. Shy K was one of the more disrespectful drill rappers, but even
and it was crazy. The D&D song, like it was like only a couple 100,000, and that shit dropped in what, like May, April. It was like super early in the year, like the first half of 2021, and then it was like Shy K stopped posting around like what, August, and I feel like that's when like the D&D song hit TikTok and it really started blowing up, like the second half of 2021, and that shit like went crazy, bro. Like I think it was like the first or second week of it going viral on TikTok, it hit 1 million views, and then it just didn't stop. Like that was the perfect time for Shy K to take that little break. D&D went off and then came back and just hit the ground running. It was perfect
His level
timing.
of dissing was nothing compared to where other rappers were starting to take it. Over on the Drilly side, Spaz Drilly, who was the former face of the Drillies, had gotten locked up in 2020. Lee Drilly decided that it was up to him to take Spaz Drilly's place and pick up where he left off. So in February of 2021, he dropped a song called Final Destination with over 40 disses and shots at basically all the rappers from the hoods he was beefing with, as well as their dead members. And this would set the trend of the Drillies and the YGs being the two most disrespectful hoods. Obviously, with all these shots being thrown at them, the other gangs had to respond with similar levels of disrespect. One of the most disrespectful rappers to emerge from DOA was a rapper called Nazi BK. He came out dissing rivals and smoking their dead basically every song, and saw a lot of success on records like Bunny in a Box and OYK. Alongside him, another big DOA rapper named Set the Trend was also doing his thing. In June, another rapper heavy on the dissing also started his career. OUSMANE dropped his first song, Warzone, dissing 6 dead ops and all the poppin' rappers he had beef with, and the track took off. OUSMANE was a rising star for the YGs, but D-Thang was still leading the movement, dropping consistent bangers as well as consistently dissing his ops.
Damn,
Throughout
bro.
early 20
Like that moment from like June of 2021 to like November, December of drill for the Bronx, we'll never get that shit back. That shit was crazy. There was so many people that was like, everybody was free, everybody was dropping, and it was like, you don't know a good thing is like going on until after the fact. Like, Bronx Drill was in its prime then, I feel like, because that was the time Is You Ready dropped, Talk Facts, and all the bangers like that. But it was just like, it was more like everybody was free, everybody had their freedom. And it's like now you can name probably like 20, 30 plus people that's locked up right now from every single side of the Bronx and Harlem.
2021, D-Thang was starting to take off and growing at around the same pace as his cousin K Flock. The main rapper he was dissing was Shy K, but on one particular song, he decided to throw a shot at B-Love, and B-Love ended up responding with the hit. In July, B-Love dropped a song.
What song was that, bro? I remember looking up this song because I wasn't super like I think that was a D-Thang feature, and I wasn't like paying attention to D-Thang all like that. I think it was on like Raps and Hustle. I think that's where he dissed B-Love on. And I wasn't on Raps and Hustle like that, but when this shit dropped, this shit was crazy.
Called If You Know You Know.
This shit was a hit
where
immediately.
He dissed D-Thang back, and the song took off and went on to get millions of views. This was also the first Bronx drill song to use a sample. The use of samples in New York drill wasn't new, and YouTube producers had been making these types of beats for a while.
They have.
But B-Love brought the sound to the Bronx and popularized it. Going into the summer.
But I ain't gonna say New York ever originated it. It was Jacksonville. If we just being honest, Jacksonville is the one that started the Who I Smoke and the other shit that Julio Fulio did. They started that shit and it was super disrespectful. That was again 2021 where the Young and Ace and Julio Fulio beef. And it was just like B-Love was the first one to like really like do a drill beat, and it was fired. So everybody followed that wave. And I think a lot of it can be played out just depending on the sample, but I fuck with the samples.
The music was heating up, but the violence was as well. And DOA would end up losing 2 members named J-Rip and Nazi, and the YGs also lost 2 members named Ty Swish and Rajeez. All of these names would be brought up and dissed, especially Ra, and one of the main rappers dissing him would be K Flock. Going into August, K Flock was the hottest rapper in the Bronx, and he only had 1 solo song. He had gotten signed in July and was ready to start his solo act. In August, he dropped Is You Ready, and the song went crazy. He dissed his cousin D-Thang, saying he would do him like Ice did Sonny, a paid in full reference that was K saying he could get him off. He also dissed Nesty Flocks, Raji's, and Eat Out Baby. The track was fire and it took off, going viral, gaining millions of views. He followed this track up with another one called Being Honest, which was a heartfelt song about what K had been going through in the streets, losing close friends.
Best song.
And the song was also very popular with fans. This same month, CJ Goon, Shy K, and 30 teamed up on a track called How You Every O Shot, taking shots at D-Thing as well as DOA. The YG's response came in September when D-Thing, Bando, and T-Dot dropped a song called Talk Facts, one of the most disrespectful tracks in music history.
Yeah.
D-Thing responded to what CJ had said on How You Every O Shot, and him, Bando, and T-Dot basically dissed every hood in the Bronx. DOA, OGs, SB, OY, Highbridge, everybody. The song had a total of
not Prime Neo Drill, Prime Bronx Drill.
And at least 20 of them were dead ops. There are cases when a song only
2019,
blows up because of how
drill.
disrespectful it is.
Yeah, drill was different.
But the song was genuinely fire and followed the new trend of sampling popular records containing a melody from the song Somebody That I Used to Know.
I would say like the last 6 months of 2019 was probably like my favorite song for Neo Drill.
The level of disrespect combined with the fact that the song was genuinely good and had a catchy melody caused the record
Smooth
to go
L,
crazy viral,
Tutu,
getting millions and millions of
Busy,
views and putting even more eyes on the Bronx drill movement. K-Flock was already starting to get some mainstream attention, and Talk Facts blowing up gave a different perspective on the movement and created an interesting narrative with K and D-Thing being blood cousins who were on opposite sides of street beef, who both ended up becoming rappers in the faces of their respective gangs. YouTube channels like Hip Hop Daily started making videos about the beef going on in the Bronx.
Oh yeah, that was the greatest time, bro. Everybody was making shit on the Bronx show, and I was just sitting there reacting to the shit.
To the already going spotlight. But
it was like doing the story of Wulati, the story of Raji's. I didn't really know much about the Bronx drill scene, like the politics behind it. I knew like who didn't fuck with who, but like I didn't know like how Raji's passed away. Well, I did, but like I didn't know the details of it. Wulati, his whole story and shit like that. So that helped me a little bit, but I'm not gonna lie. I was watching every Hip Hop Daily video. I know they be stealing content. I don't fuck with them all like that, but
fortunately, D-Thing wouldn't be able to capitalize much off of the new attention because in November he was arrested for criminal possession of a firearm and would have to sit in jail. Meanwhile, K-Flock was continuing his rise. In October, he was featured on a Lil TJ record alongside 5 Foreign, giving him even.
Wait, when did he get locked up? Cause then D-Thing get locked up. He got locked up. I know he got locked up twice. He got locked up for a gun possession, then got out, and then got locked up like a week or two later. He dropped Love D-Thing in between that, like when he was free.
Some more mainstream attention. Then in November, he dropped his debut project, the DOA tape. Everything was going up for him. Then on November 24th, New York City police put up a wanted poster with K-Flock's picture saying he was wanted for murder. And in January, he turned himself in. It was revealed that the whole
he got was it December 23rd, and then he turned himself in that same day. I know he turned himself the same day as that poster went viral.
Thing was captured on camera, and the tapes revealed that K-Flock had been walking through his ops hood when he passed a barber shop. An OY member named Oscar left the shop, followed him, and confronted him. K backed out and upped it on him, taking his life.
What?
The whole situation was a crazy turn of
That's allegedly like
events.
No facts.
In the prior months, he had been blowing up at a crazy rate, with many projecting his career to take off at the same trajectory as Pop Smoke. But he had blown it and was now looking at 20 plus years behind bars. With K-Flock and D-Thing behind bars, it looked like the Bronx might suffer the same fate in 22 that Brooklyn faced in 2020 with the loss of Pop Smoke. But luckily, smaller Bronx drill rappers ended up capitalizing on the opportunity and keeping the movement alive. Lee Drilly had only started in February of 2021, but by August of that year, he was already preparing to go on a crazy run.
Crazy.
In September, he had dropped a song called Deadly with E-Woo and Say Drilly that was just as disrespectful as Talk Facts and had continued to make a name for himself off his skill, his unique style, and his commitment to dissing his ops on basically every song. In fall of 2021, while Lee Drilly had been heating up, Shy K had taken a step back from music. But around the end of December, he returned with Force FK. Two songs combined into one, and both were extremely disrespectful, with him taking shots at DOA and the YGs. The video took off quickly, gaining 1 million views in a short period of time. Similarly to Lee Drilly, USGs, who had also just started rapping in 2021, had been rising quickly throughout the year off heavy dissing. In October, he had dropped a song called Dead Lokes, continuing his habit of being extremely disrespectful and dissing as many people as possible, as well as continuing to perfect his new Batman voice. The song went viral, and he followed this up with We Been Ready, a response to K-Flock's song Is You Ready on the same beat. Then on Christmas, one day after Shahi K had dropped 47K, he dropped a song called Face of the Bronx. Shahi K didn't like him claiming this title, and 2 weeks later he dropped a song called Face of the What, where he said that USG was not the face of the Bronx. The song went crazy, and to this day it's the most viewed video on his channel at a count of 7.5 million. Starting 2022 out with the song blowing up and K and D-Thang gone, Shahi K was the biggest rapper in the Bronx, and him and USGs continued to go back and forth, making their music as disrespectful as possible. But Shahi K was outshining everybody and hitting 1 million+ views regularly while he was still independent. With the explosion of K-Flock and rappers like D-Thang and Shahi K all getting millions of views, the Bronx drill scene had more attention than ever, and one of the people watching was the mayor of New York.
I ain't gonna say in 2021 everybody was looking at that shit. I feel like everybody fell back once D-Thang and K got locked up. I feel like people weren't making the videos no more. Like the YouTubers making the videos, they weren't really in tune for it. They just wanted to see like the mainstream rappers like K and D-Thang. They ain't give a fuck about Shahi K or USGs. Like if you ask the average, you feel like rap listener, if you know K-Flock or D-Thang, they gonna say yes. Shahi K, I doubt it, bro. Like Shahi K just doesn't have that song. Neither does USGs, where they have that one song that hit mainstream attention. It's just not like 10+ million views is what I consider like a mainstream hit. And you feel me? 47. What do you say? 47K or Face of the What only got like 7 million views or something like that. But like K-Flock's numbers and D-Thang's numbers are different.
New York's son.
20 million.
Eric Adams, who was the mayor of New York, had never heard of drill until his son sent him some videos. Looking at the songs from a neutral point of view, the music was clearly bad for the city. You had gang members pouring gas on already hot fire with threats of violence, as well as taunts of what they had already done, and Eric Adams felt he had to do something about it. So he had a conference to let the people know that he was going to try to reach out to some of the social media companies to try to get them to remove some of the videos.
Like what?
The news went everywhere that Eric Adams was trying to ban drill, and fans started panicking, and the rappers weren't too happy to see that they might be canceled.
Listen, Eric, leave me the alone. I'm rapping, I'm getting money, I ain't doing that wrong.
Luckily for them, Eric Adams didn't actually end up doing anything about the situation. And
that's the problem. If you want to do something about drill music and shit like that, you need to go to the poverty-stricken neighborhoods and make other outlets for the young kids to go and do something with. That's a rec center. If that's, I don't know. You gotta figure it out, because these motherfuckers in poverty-stricken neighborhoods, they don't got nothing else to do after school, so they just playing the block or chilling with the big homies. 12, 13, 14-year-olds are passing away, and you blame it on music. Music's not the reason these 13, 14-year-olds are getting in these gangs and doing all this crazy shit. You need to think about that shit, because that's the real problem.
At least the DOA.
Motherfuckers just want to, they're just hungry. They just want to make money for their family, put food on their table. You know what I mean? That's all it is.
Because without K-Flock, his homies were lost.
They didn't do none of that
and
shit.
BK were barely putting out music.
So worried about the
to
music.
make matters worse, they even ended up falling out and beefing. Without K-Flock, his homies were lost. Dougie B and Nazi BK were barely putting out music, and to make matters worse, they even ended up falling out and beefing. But they would later be seen on the stage together, leading many to believe they squashed it.
I mean,
B-Love was doing his
B-Love's been doing his thing. I think the second half of 2021, I don't think he put out not one song, which is cool. But they both had their reason. Dougie B was going through a lot mentally. That's why he didn't drop music. And Nazi BK had a contract, so this past month he's released like 7-8 songs probably. He's been doing his thing, but that's because he was in contract.
Working with people like G Herbo and A Boogie,
problems.
And he wasn't as lit as when K was
Bad
free.
Deal.
But he was making styles of music outside of drill, and it looked like he was on pace to make a career that would last. So things were looking bad for DOA and good for the OGs, But for the YGs and the Drillies, things ended up going horribly. In April, Lee Drilly and 19 other Drilly members would catch a huge indictment tying them to all sorts of crimes going as far back as 2018. Then in May, D-Thang and 22 other YG's members from the RPT projects were named in a huge conspiracy indictment, and it became clear that D-Thang, who had already been sitting in Rikers on his gun case, would not be going anywhere anytime soon. OUSMANE wasn't included in this indictment and continued to put on for the gang, but over the course of the year, he would end up beefing with the Drillies repeatedly, first over a song he did with one of their ops, and then over a messy breakup with the girl who was the sister of a Drilly member. And things would end up getting to the point where
What?
first over a song he did with one of their ops.
The 22G's feature. The Drillies felt away because who was it? Was it Stain Blicky? Was it Stain Blicky that was smoking on? Who was he smoking on? He was smoking on somebody. I think he was smoking on was it Dummy? I don't know. Dumb Out. I don't know, but one of 22G's homies was smoking on the Drillies Deads. Drillies felt away. UC still did the song with them. Never dropped it though. But that's why the beef came.
And then over a messy breakup with the girl who was the sister of a Drilly member.
Sister of a Drilly member. He's talking about Yushi's ex Hillary, who I think she's from Polo or fucks with Polo. And then like I seen Yushi, he was beefing with Polo too, saying he's Polo K on Facebook and shit. And Josh 7G Gotti fucked away. I don't know about.
And things would end up getting to the point where USG's declared that he was Drilly K. Over in Harlem on the OY side, E-Dot Baby was staying consistent, and Sugar Hill King was starting to take off, doing numbers on songs like Flock at the Flockas and Can't Wait. And alongside him, OY Quan was also starting to do his thing. As a whole, the Bronx drill movement had motion, but all the rappers behind bars and internal beefs had killed a lot of its momentum. But a new star would still end up emerging, and he would catch the world's attention in a tragic way. In July of 2022, an OY member called Nadi Osama was stabbed in an altercation on the subway and ended up losing his life at the young age of 14. Nadi and his brother Didi Osama had just recently started rapping earlier that year, and the large amount of publicity around his death brought a lot of new listeners to Didi. He capitalized on his new attention and began dropping consistently. As a result, his music took off at an extreme pace. He started gaining millions and millions of views, and his biggest song, 40s and 9s, went crazy, hitting 7 million views in a couple of months.
Those numbers are crazy, bro. When K-Flock was out, he wasn't even dropping as consistent as this. And these numbers are just insane. I just keep looking at these shits like this shit is something that no other drill rapper I've seen do this. To be able to drop this consistently twice, 3 times a month, and every time you drop it gets 1 million minimum. That's
in August,
crazy.
He passed every other rapper
Maybe
in the Bronx
Pop
and
Smoke,
Harlem in terms of searches,
Uh-huh.
and became the face of the movement at the young age of 15. His explosion onto the scene even caught the attention of major labels, and in September, Didi ended up signing with Alamo. Alongside Didi, his friend and fellow OY member Sugar Hill D-Dot, who's a year younger than him, was also starting to see his career take off alongside Didi, doing hundreds of thousands of views on basically all of his songs. But everybody wasn't a fan of Didi and the OYs. They had problems.
Yeah. I think TikTok really took over in 2020 when the whole COVID shit happened. When we was in that pandemic. Yeah, K-Flock shit not going as viral on TikTok, but his shit is still going viral on TikTok. His shit was going viral on TikTok. It's just, I feel like, bro, if K-Flock was dropping just as much as Didi, I don't think his numbers would look the same as Didi or something. I don't know.
With several groups, and one of these groups was called 41.
But TikTok
in October,
crazy.
This group made an extremely disrespectful song along with a dance to Mock Nadi, and it ended up going viral, shocking the entire internet. The dance part was new, but the unfortunate trend of dissing the dead, no matter their age, had already been set, so the situation didn't surprise anybody familiar with the scene. And the situation even ended up...
that was a crazy, like, the Naughty Bop whole, like, I feel like the week leading up to it, it was a crazy time. That when that song dropped, that's all anybody talked about for the next 2-3 days. Like it really shut down like the drill community side of the internet, near drill like internet. Like no one was beefing, no one was doing anything. Everybody was just talking about this song, reacting to it on live, just bumping it. Like that was a crazy time. And it's crazy because Didi Osama really got the last laugh. He dropped back to back. Recently just hit 10 million views. I think the Naughty Bop song would hit 20 million views, but it ended up getting taken down. And Didi really got the last laugh for real.
Benefiting Didi Osama, bringing him more attention and adding to his growing fame.
Yeah.
This brings us to the present day. K-Flock, D-Thang, and Lee Drilly are still behind bars. B-Love and Shaik K are still big and doing solid numbers. And Didi Osama has jumped all the way to the front of the movement.
Yeah.
It looks like the Bronx best days are behind it, but things might not be over yet. We'll just have to wait and see.
Facts.
But one thing is certain, the entire story of the Bronx and Harlem drill has been crazy to watch. From early 2020 to 2022, a lot has happened.
Facts.
The movement formed in a very
right
small period of time and caught the world's attention quickly. We saw K-Flock go on a legendary run and crash out and set himself up to lose everything.
Like, come on,
There's
bro.
been a lot of
like, we not on the case. We wasn't there when this situation happened. It's all alleged information. Don't be calling him a crasher when you don't know anything.
crazy to watch. From early 2020
all you know is what the
to
cops told us.
2022, a lot has happened. The movement formed in a very small period of time and crashed out and set himself up to lose everything. There's been a lot of good music, but also a lot of death and a lot of cases. Whether the movement has been a net positive or negative is still up for debate.
Come on, bro. You cannot say the violence is still gonna be there regardless of drill music. Like, people that pass away aren't, feel me, that they not all drill rappers. So you saying, come on, bro, it's a positive, bro. There's been so many people that's some locked up, but the reason they got lawyers on their cases is because they was drill rapping, signing their deals. You feel what I'm saying? A lot of people got deals. A lot of people got out of these power-stricken neighborhoods and got to the top. Yeah, hundreds of thousands of millions of views, feed their family. We even debating if it's a negative or positive. Like, come on, bro.
But his statement has been a net positive or negative is still up for debate, but it's certainly been unforgettable.
Yeah. That was a good video. Just the K-Flock shit was throwing me off.